Okay, well, the big first question is, because a lot of people say that gear won't make you sound better. Like buying gear will not make you a better producer, will not make you better. But for this project, you got a new mic beforehand.
I did.
So did you notice that it was easier with a new mic and having something that was like better quality to work with rather than having to do like a whole bunch of post-production work, like recording on the Snowball or something like that? Like, did it improve your process?
It's funny because some of the songs are recorded with the Blue Yeti, and some are recorded with the Shure, with the SM7B. Because this is probably the longest I've held on to a project, because I got so lost in other projects that like I fought to get this thing. Like I was like I had to like just I hate using this because I just use this, but put my foot down and be like, okay, finish this. Because like I had those songs for so long, and like some of the beats I've had for a minute, and I had like some things recorded here and there. So Morse, the track 3 is with the Blue Yeti. I think a Vergio track 4, no, that's not 4. Track 5 is with the Blue Yeti. Track 4 is with the Blue Yeti. Track 1 is with the Blue Yeti.
So that's interesting. I would have.
There's like extra shit. All the extra shit when I was finishing it is Shure.
Okay, so like kind of like the background ad libs and stuff like that comes in. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I would have never guessed that. I would have like the first thing I thought of when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's the new mic.
Because in Vivus, the track 2, it's like the second part with like all the vocals just be like, I'm alive. Like that's Shure. Because that part I didn't have done. I only had the first part recorded for like maybe 2 months. And it was just, that second part was just laying there. And I was like, what am I going to add? How am I going to do it? And I was just thinking about it for 2 months. And then one day I just recorded all this shit. So that's with the Shure mic. With Morse, the hook. Like the second part is with because I had the first verse, and that second part I didn't have anything recorded. So when I went to finish it, I had that second mic. So that second part is fully second mic. The verse is fully first mic.
Oh my god, that is blowing my mind right now, because I like going into this, I was like, oh, that's the new mic, 100%, because like it seems so much more clear than like your last projects. When it comes to, I'm not sure if it's just the way you designed the vocals around this one.
I had found a new mixing chain, a new vocal mixing chain that makes the vocals more upfront, because I realized with my previous projects, the fact that I'm so instrumentally like wild, a lot of the times the vocals end up just being way too low, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I found this random, like, you know, Ableton vocal mixing, and it was like it had this parallel compression going, and it could help you, like, it's like there's 2 parallel compressors going on on top of the dry vocals, and then they're panned. It's very strange how it works. I can show it to you.
Well, no, but like this is what we want to find out.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like that's why all the vocals are so up front.
That's crazy.
With this one, it's just different mixing.
So are you, with your vocals, are you panning them like a left and a right channel, or are you just kind of like doing one straight up the middle?
You know how you have effect racks on Ableton? Basically, I compress the vocals, do basic compression, EQ, and then de-esser, and then after the de-esser, I think I should put the de-esser after. But after the de-esser, there's like this parallel effect chain where it's like where you can add the effect with the dry. It's as if it's like return tracks.
Okay, so you're just mixing in a little bit of
you just mix in a little bit.
Of the
it gives you more control, because when you're just relying on a dry mix knob, it's like it takes away from the vocals. The higher the dry wet knob is the higher the percentage, the more it takes away, especially with reverb, which I used to use a lot.
Yeah, well, you had showed me a lot of old, like, washed out reverb tricks, which I actually started using. Like after you showed me those, like I was like, I just put a lot of reverb on these and let it go. I was like, oh, 100%. That makes a little bit more sense.
You know how many things I've changed into pads?
Oh, just by
just 100% reverb.
Well, that's one way to do it. You can get a lot of cool results with vocals, though, especially trying to turn them into pads using reverb. Like, do you ever like resample your vocals and then just put reverb on it and play it like as an actual instrument?
No, but I should try that.
Be interesting. Turning your voice into a synth. I feel like that's something. I feel like that's very doable for you.
Yeah, I should try.
I feel like that's a road you could travel down. There's a plugin called, I think it's called The Mouth. I think it's for Contact Reactor. I don't know. It's part of the Native Instruments
I think
family.
I have 6.
Yeah, it's like
Contact
that was like one of the first ones, like 5 years ago that I found out about. It's like if you put it on vocals and stuff, it just basically turns it into a synth. And get some really weird things
like
going with those.
a sampler synth.
Yeah, essentially.
I
Yeah.
see. I'm gonna look into that. Send that to me.
Since we're on the vocals, my big thing was because these ones they sat so well in the mix for me. It was one of those things where I didn't have to try to pick out the vocals apart. Like I found like with your older tracks, you have to sometimes pick. Do I want to listen to the vocal of this track or do I want to listen to the background? And with this one, I could kind of feel my brain without thinking going between the two for when it was necessary. Like the big synths would come in and my brain would go to the sound and then your vocals would come back and my brain would start listening to the words. And it wasn't like a thing I had to pick up on. So I guess my main question is did you use sidechain for your vocals? Because everything seems to like cut so cleanly.
Did I sidechain everything to the vocals?
Did you sidechain your vocals to the drums mainly and to like other synths too? Because I've known some people they'll sidechain stuff to whatever, but it just seems like everything cuts through your vocals when it comes through like so well. Like everything is just, I don't know how to explain this properly, but your vocals are on top. Right, they're riding on top,
and everything's happening under it.
And everything's happening under it. But when the sounds matter, they'll like pop up through those.
Oh, I see.
Through your vocals, and it's like, whoa, where did that sound come from? And then it kind of dips away, and it's like back under the track. So it kind of felt like there was like a heavy side chaining vibe going on throughout the EP, but could be wrong.
I think I'm not. I don't think I do this consciously. Because I can't even tell you if I was going for that when I mixed it the way I did. Because everything, like with study series, I don't let myself interpret what's going on until like after. The point is not like to really get too conceptual or whatever. It's just like I just let my brain do its thing. I let it go as wild as it can, as it wants to. That's why there's so much going on musically. Like I could have probably edited some shit out, but that's not the point, right? So I think in my experience listening to music, since I didn't speak English for a very long time, but I also really liked English music, I could never know what they were saying. So what I would pay attention to when I would listen to music is production, the way the vocals sound in terms of like flow and cadence and melody. And then if I pick up what they're saying lyrically, cool. So it was like the lyrics were usually the last thing I'd always remember. So it would just be like, there's this Justin Timberlake song, which I just recently realized what they were talking about, but I've been listening to it for like 10 years. I forget what it's called. Carry Out.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't know anything they're saying. It's like, but I love the song because of every single thing except I don't care about the lyrics.
That makes sense now.
So the music, I never really cared to put the vocals up front because to me the vocals is no different than the other shit going on. It's like it's part of the instrumental.
It's like your vocals are there to glue everything together.
Yeah,
it's like the glue of the track. Yeah.
So which is why like on Duke for the first 30 seconds, I'm just mumbling. I'm just in a way I'm just priming you for the
which
flow.
Is also like the hardest intro of all time. That beat. It's just like ridiculously hard, and then just like these little like. You don't even, it's just like, I don't even know, like I said, you don't even know what you're saying half the time. Yeah. You're just putting these like little vocal tones into the track.
Yeah, to me it's like I approach doing vocals like a producer. So to me it's just another instrument in the instrumental.
So that's crazy.
Like wherever it doesn't have to be up front, but if it's gonna help, then sure.
You're like the only dude that I know that puts vocals on a track that doesn't have it as the main thing in the track.
I hate that.
Which is like, that's insane. And I think that's why it makes your production stand out and so unique, because you can tell you're working on projects for the sounds, right? Like you're not like just trying to make a track that bangs. Like you're trying to make something that sounds unique and is like true to you. So it's like you hear these sounds bleed out through it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. You know what I found that's very interesting too, and mixing it. It's super compressed. Like it's super. There's no space. I realized this like after I put it out, listening to a lot of the tracks. Like there's no space really, but I don't know if like that's very subjective. It's just as a study note in terms of like interpreting like what did I learn from this. I think I went overboard with the compression, especially like when mastering it. I was so focused on getting it to be loud that I forgot like dynamics matter
so
too.
what you feel like it doesn't like it's
And
just
some of them I feel like the kick's not really doing anything because everything is so at the level of the kick.
Oh, okay.
That it's
so,
like
yeah, well that was so I listened to it on three different three different speakers. I listened to it on my Sennheisers, on just Apple headphones because I feel like that's most people listening to it, and then I listened to it on like the iPhone speaker. So I'm like, those are like that's like the producer way of listening. Like that's like the producer way of listening. There's different, like, it will give you a different tone, right? Because when I listen to it on the Sennheisers, I could be like, it doesn't feel like there's as much low end on these headphones because they're a very mid-range headphone. But then when I listen to it on the Apple headphones, all of a sudden it's like you get the kick is very powerful and it's very in your ear. But the thing that I noticed that when I listened to it on the actual, like, just my iPhone itself, like that's where it sounded the best.
Really?
Because I don't know why, but like like you could hear everything. Like obviously not the bass as much, but it was still coming through, and it was just like I felt like I could just put the speaker on my phone on the other side of the room, and I could walk across the room, and it's like I'm still hearing everything. I'm not trying to listen for something in the track. Everything's there. Everything he's wanting me to hear right now is there.
It's probably the way I mixed it. I wanted to put a shit ton of sounds in there and have all of them be heard. So I kind of went overboard on saturation because saturation can increase like perceived loudness a little bit. So there's a lot of the vocals are like the saturator. I'll put it like on medium, and then I'll just remove do you have the Max for Live the gain compensator?
I haven't used it. I feel like it's in there.
Game changer. Mixing, game changer. Because you know how everything does something to the gain of the sound. Every effect you add does something. So basically you just put a send device before the effect, a send device after, and it calculates the gain difference so you can fix it.
Oh, so you're gain staging pretty much. Okay,
you're gain staging, but like you basically just... That helped me a lot with the mixing. That's what I'm trying to say.
That is like, it just did help me a lot.
Because a lot of times it's like I gain stage before I add effects. So then I finish gain staging and I add all the effects, but now everything's in a different volume.
Yeah,
so I have to fix that
you gotta
again.
readjust everything
but
again.
But if I'm doing it as I'm adding effects,
that was a question I had here, which was basically it was like because the project it was so. Like you said, like you used a lot of distortion in the project.
So much.
So I was gonna like
so much.
I guess like it was like, did you find it challenging? Which you kind of already did answer this question, but like trying to find a balance between cleanliness in sound and it being just distorted and rough. Because I know that's kind of like your style. You like things like almost sounding like a little rough around the edges, but it's like very like clean at the end of the day. Like so is it like a weird balance that you had to find between I just want to blow everything out and then but also have it like nice in the ear?
I just fall into holes where it was like for study series 1, we're gonna call it season 1. So season 1 would be study series 1, care package, and then yin. That's like the season's worth of music, and then I saw it. So study series 1, if you go into it, you hear all those reverb things being played around with, and then yin, it's like it's tweaked and it's like polished. Okay, so it's like so reverb was the big thing for that season. It's like I loved the way reverb sounded, so I just went overboard with it and tried to figure out a way to make it work. So with this one, it's a lot of like saturation and distortion. So it's like all the vocals are being ran through the pedal. The pedal is on every single vocal.
So this is something I'm glad because I was like, because I know that's your sauce.
Yeah,
it's like the amp and the pedal. Like those are your two, and those are things you turned me on too. Is that like when I got stuck on a sound, I would just be like pedal, See what I could get out of it.
It's so awesome. You have no
Like,
idea.
did you count how many times you used the pedal on this project?
It's on so
in
many
total?
things. It's on the drums on track 4. The drums are being ran through. It's like the fuzz. I use the fuzz for that
Okay.
one. That's why they're so like gritty
Yeah.
and like high end distorted. There's every vocal, like the first thing was like at a certain point I would laugh about it as I'm doing it. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna put a fucking pedal on this, and I put a pedal on it, and it was like, you're gonna love how it sounds, and I'm like, I love how it sounds. So I'm gonna keep it. But that was like a lot of them. Like a lot, I use it a lot, but that's like the study here. I'm gonna figure out how to polish it and not make it as cliche. Because by the time, if you hear another track and I have that on it, you're gonna be like, okay, like.
Are you using the pedal on your drums as well, or just to give it a little bit of like an oomph?
I use it on drum loops a lot.
That's cool. That's cool because that's not at all what you're supposed to use it for.
I never see that's
Like who's like, it's a pedal. Let's put it on drums, right?
Like I literally don't mind giving this away. Like every single person, if you have Ableton and you haven't tried putting up the pedal effect on like an old drum loop, it's like it makes it sound so like punchier and gritty and like dirty.
Are you using drum loops in most of it, like sample drums and stuff like that, or are you doing?
Duke has drum loops, like the end.
Okay, yeah.
There's like a drum loop on that. I guess that's something I do too a lot, where I put sequence drums over drum loops, and I sidechain the kick.
Like all my projects, literally every project I've made in the last.
It never fails.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Because there's a lot of pockets I can't hit because I'm not a drummer.
Yeah, and
I can find a loop.
I'm glad we brought up the pedal thing on, because I would have thinking of it now, I was like, oh yeah, like one of my questions was, how did you get the drums so distorted, but like they're still punchy? Usually when you distort like drums a lot, they lose that punchiness, and it just sounds like a brick, right?
The sub button on the pedal.
The sub button on the pedal.
Yeah.
Like would have never thought of that. Like I'll use drum bus a lot when I want to get sounds out of my.
See, I don't like drum bus.
That's my like go-to.
It takes away from the drums.
Oh, yes.
Because Morse,
I guess what I'm doing.
The drums on Morse I mixed them with drum bus, and I liked how they sounded without it.
Are you using any I
probably just don't know how to use it.
And I was gonna say, are you using like any like tape machines and stuff on the project, or because that's like the popular thing nowadays. Everyone's using RC20. They're routing it through a tape machine. They're using the cassette deck or whatever. Right?
I know Jordan's watching this. Yo, RC20.
RC20 on everything. RC20 on everything.
RC20 on everything.
If it doesn't sound good, RC20 on everything. So, your use of creative autotune on the project, because a lot of people just use autotune, but you use it in an actual like musical way where it complements the actual stuff that's being played in the track. It's not just like an overproduced autotune.
I think I'm coping.
It's good.
I feel like I'm coping with it in my use of it, because I want to stop using it as much, because it could quickly become a crutch. Because I actually want to be able to do this shit with my voice without autotune. Because then when it comes to live performances, like I need to be able to do this without the autotune, right? If there's no autotune. So usually what happens is I'll have a melody idea, and then I'll just use the autotune so I don't have to try as hard. Like when I'm just putting down a reference, so I don't have to try as hard. I just do the vocals with the autotune on it. So I know exactly what I'm doing vocally, and then it's usually supposed to be revisited and worked on. But what happens is I don't revisit it and fix it. I just keep the take because I end up liking how it sounds. So I think what I've done is I've my production has kind of like adapted to that. I feel like I subconsciously know I'm going to use autotune, so I make music that makes the autotune work. Because like the production works with the autotune, in my opinion. On the SS2, like the autotune works. Like it in the context of the production, it makes sense why those vocals would be auto-tuned.
Yeah.
But I didn't deliberately choose to do this. It was just
a lot of your stuff is just kind of like it happens in the moment. It's not like a pre-thought out.
And it's also like pedal mixed with autotune on vocals is like
You can see the grit that you get from it, right?
So
Like,
in this project, my voice is essentially a guitar the whole way through.
yeah, I mean, yeah, right. You're
It's
you're
like
turning your voice into
that's
yeah.
what it is. So the only track I don't do this is Duke, where it's like my vocals are pretty dry in there.
Well, I was gonna say it almost sounded like you kind of like mixed in the auto tune like a dry and wet, like you went like 50% on it or something. Like it
Yeah,
didn't sound
no,
like
there's less on there.
yeah, yeah,
But there's no pedal. It's the only track I think that has no pedal in the vocals.
crazy. No
It's just-
pedal. Whoa.
Yeah.
This is more for like music production nerds and people who produce. But did you do your drums in mono or did you do them in stereo?
Like
Or
just
did you
all
do-
the drums?
Did you do some of the drums in
like
mono?
you mean
Like-
mixing or
Well, I mean, like a lot of people will swear by having all of their drums or like having
in the
their
middle?
kick and their snare in mono,
No.
and like some people swear by only having it in stereo. Do you have a preference? Are you against one or the other?
I did I most of my kicks are in mono. All of them are in mono. But usually snare I leave it my snare is usually in the middle or wide as shit, like coming from each like whatever.
Each ear.
Yeah, each ear. And everything else is free. It's free range. So sometimes I'll put the snare. The snare on Duke is like on the left. I hate the final mix. Bro, the hat on Duke is like what I'm angriest about post release, because the demo before the mix, it was louder, and that hat is like why I like the song.
It's like
you know
it
you know
carries the track. Yeah. it's-
and then
yes. Okay. I'm like trying to
literally
yes.
just that, and that was what like made that part work. But then the final mix is not loud enough, and every time I listen to it, I'm angry because it needs to be louder. But like that's on the left, I think, or on the right. I think one of the demo, I think it was on the left, and then in the final one, it's on the right. I don't know why I did that.
So, did you ever have to like step away from the project for a little bit to be like,
Not while I was finishing it.
not while you're finishing it, you're just full in?
I was like, just finish it. I was like, don't think about it. I mixed it over like 2 days, 3 days, maybe 4.
I was gonna say because the mixing process seemed like fairly like you had it. You were like, I'm mixing it this week, and then by the end of the week, you're like, okay, it's ready for
Yeah, it was submitted like I think when the day I finished the last one.
yeah. Which is just like wild to me that you were like that you had this project and that you're like
with the mix.
that like okay, I'm gonna mix this down in a week now. It's like that like that. I would collapse under pressure. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I'd be like, how am I gonna get all
Because I
this?
know it could always be better. I know it. So it's like I'm just gonna end up just working on this and fixing it and fixing it and fixing it and fixing it. And it's never gonna be fixed. Like it's and studies like that's not the point of study. Maybe for like the project at the end of the season, when I put like a full length project, I'll spend time mixing it. But even that, like it's like I'd rather put myself through the torture of putting it out and having it out unable to change it, and then thinking about it, like reflecting on it after it's out. Because then it's like I'll be so much more emotional about it that when I go into the next one, I'll make sure I don't do that mistake again.
Yeah, it's like a learning process for the next track, right?
Yeah.
It's like yeah, exactly. Well,
But
I
that's
know,
just the way I work. It's just what works for me. I just don't like holding on to projects for too long.
just put it out and get on to the next one.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson to live by. I mean, I should start doing that. I was gonna say. I mean,
But the longer you hold it, the more timeless I think the work becomes. The longer you work on it, the more timeless it becomes, because you tweak out. Because like, it's like how does Frank Ocean finish Blonde in 2013 and held it on until 2016, and it sounded perfect for the time it came out, and
Yeah.
it still sound perfect if you dropped it now, or if you dropped it 10
it's one of
years
those
from now.
things you have to make sure you're not like going
It's
into a
'cause he held
project
on to
and
it.
like working backwards, right?
Yeah,
like,
because like he probably had different tracks, different versions, but like, but that to me, I feel like I'm gonna start working like this once I get to my 10,000 hours. Once I know exactly what I'm doing thoroughly, that's when I'm gonna start worrying about making timeless things. Right now, I'm just learning.
right now we're just making stuff and putting it out.
Yeah, I'm just learning.
It's a good way to do it, though. So, did you start with synths for this one? Did you start with this one? Was this project sample based at all? Like, did you have like? I know you had It sounded like to me that there was samples from other tracks at some points. I don't know what they were, and I couldn't tell what they were. But I'm like, that might be a sample, or that might just be Geo. I don't know.
I just do that with samples because I don't want to be. I don't want to get sued, so I just destroy the sample.
Very well disguised into the tracks.
There's a Nas song in there, like "Life's a Bitch" and then you die. You never. Life's a. I don't even know the fucking song.
It's in there.
I was making that beat because that beat is old. It's from 2018. Morse track 3. I've had that for very long, and I've had like the first half of that verse for like a year and a half. And I was supposed to finish it, but I never finished it. I just revisited. I was like, I do this a lot where I'm just like, I need to do something with this. I need to do something, and I procrastinate until one day I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. So then Morse, there's like on left and right. The thing is, I ran Nas's vocals through an auto-tune and I pitched it.
Oh,
so you can't tell.
Yeah,
there's one that's low on your left, it's like low pitch, and then there's one that's high on your right, high pitch, and it's running through auto-tune, so it's like tuned to the song. So
we should censor this whole part. So it
no, it's good. It's good. I want to get sued. Good
don't
publicity.
Get a strike. Honestly, if you get sued, it would be like good publicity for you.
But usually, if I can finesse, if it doesn't get picked up by like the AI when you submit it, like usually if you sample in an obvious way when you submit it to streaming platforms, it should get picked up by the time it gets submitted. It didn't, and I've been sampling I've sampled like. I try not to sample obvious things, but yeah, track 1, it's a.
I did the picture that I was making for you.
What?
The picture, like remember that album cover, and then I was like scared because it was like plagiarized.
Oh yeah, nah, dude, I steal. That's like the foundation of how I work.
That's the foundation of making music. Is borrowing from other people.
Fucking steal everything. I don't give a fuck. But track 1 is like this Latin. Oh, that's a sample. The only thing I added was a kick and a snare.
Jeez.
And
fits well.
And even those are like pretty low because I wanted to feel like it was part of the sample a little bit. But it's just like the sample itself without the kick didn't have the. I didn't even figure out the low end on this. The low end could have been so much better because I think the bass is too, like it's not wide enough. Like it's not shaking.
I know what you mean.
It's too tame.
So that was the only critique I had. And I don't even want to have a critique on the album.
100%.
But the only is when I was listening on the Sennheisers and I was like, I turned it up and I was like, I just want
the bass.
I remember I was like, I just wanted to drop it into Ableton and just boop, a little frequency just there, just so I could just get a little bit more low end because I was like, all I wanted, like I want this to shake me. It's so powerful, right?
Yeah.
But also goes into another question I have, which is like you have such like a low mid-range voice, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like a lot of the sounds you're using are very low mid-ranged. So it's gonna be a challenge.
That's true.
Get everything to mesh. So it was like
Maybe
we've
that's
already
why I
talked about
pedal so much.
the mixing process a lot, but like I was gonna say, like, was that your biggest challenge? Was trying to mesh the low end of your voice with the low ends of the track?
I don't think that technically about mixing. Like mixing to me, since I'm not an engineer, I rely on my intuition a lot when I mix. I learn the technical shit I need to know, and then from there it's just fully intuition. I just move knobs until something feels right.
Feeling.
Which is why I think I lacked the technical skill to like make that. Actually, no, I just lacked the patience. I just didn't take. It's the thing. If I sat with it, I would have realized, hey, the bass is too tame, and I would have just changed it. But I didn't do that. I just put it out. But I know like the bass, like it's too in the it's not shaking your ear. Like when you put headphones on, like you don't feel the shake of the bass.
Yeah, no,
you feel like the bass is
there.
like a sound in the middle.
Yeah, you hear it, but you don't feel it. Yeah,
you don't feel it. Yeah, the bass, I think it's too compressed.
But are you mixing and mastering on headphones, on speakers, right? Or like
this one, I alternated.
I mean, yeah, and it's like it's always going to change, right? If you went into a studio space that was properly sound treated and mixed that album for the week, it would sound 100% different, and everything would be exactly
work on my room.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be an at-home producer and get the exact feeling out of a track that you want.
Yeah,
because like that's why I listen to it on different headphones. You're going to get a different feeling from every frequency range, right? So.
Track 2, you don't know what I sampled? I went to LA for Camp Flognaw in 2018. We went to Venice, and there's like obnoxious people who always get you to try to buy their mixtape. This guy came to me and like was like, yo, I make music, blah blah blah. His name is King G Supreme, and it's funny, I've never forgot his name.
I like how you know his name, yeah. Like you try to sell me his mixtape, but I know him now.
Actually, you know what? I should have reached out and gave him royalties because I use his song. But if he ever finds it, I'll gladly pay him because he gave me the CD and he was like, I'll take whatever you give me. I think I gave him, I don't even remember, but I remember when I got back, I burned the CD and then imported the songs, and I was listening. I was like, I'm gonna sample this guy, and I think the first track there's like this snare fill, and I was like, I'm gonna loop that. That's what's looping throughout the entire first part.
That's wild, but that's the sample.
It's
though.
just like some random like LA guy who just sold me his mixtape.
So that's the secret. If you want a good sample,
Oh,
go
dude.
to LA and buy some dude's mixtape.
That's the only sample
That's
in
the
there.
secret. That's the only sample in the. Oh, on that track.
On Vivos, yeah, track
Yeah.
2. I think that's the only one.
I think yeah.
I just chopped it. I just chopped different parts of it.
actually yeah.
I think.
Viva's guitar samp. That's a question. I was gonna say that's.
There's guitar.
There
is guitar.
at one
There's
point
guitar.
because it came out of nowhere, right? I was like, this is different. Like this isn't with like what I've been listening to. And then the guitar comes in. It's so nice.
Is it at the end? Is
It's
it
like- yeah, it's kinda like
arpeggiated?
Yeah, halfway towards the end, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, that was like
I think it's after someone speaks French or something. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that guitar. I'm glad it got heard because I wanted to make sure. You
yeah,
could
yeah.
hear it.
No, it was good. That was one of those ones where it made my head turn. I was like, ooh, that's,
Yeah, because it's moving around. It's
moving. It's moving.
Got an LFO going.
Movement. Lots of movement on the EP.
Yeah.
Lots of movement.
I
Is
used
that
it.
something different?
You know
that
the
you did?
LFO Max for Live thing?
Yeah.
I abused that.
So is that like? Did you try to do more automation on this project than like other projects? Where you just like?
I try to keep it more interesting. You know, because like it's like it's loops and I feel like it could get boring. So I try to make sure like I think as you get better with arranging, you figure out how to keep things interesting musically. Like you can fuck around with a loop. You can remove a sound for 2 seconds just to put emphasis on what the vocals are saying, and then bring it back after. But track 3, just a Nas sample. That's just vocals. Track 4, Requiem. That's fully me. There's no samples on there. Track 5 is a Sade song that Tim had sent to me, and then I just chopped it, but then it's like pitched down, so it doesn't even sound like a Sade song anymore. And then track 6, it's Naruto. It's like Naruto Shippuden. I think it's like there's I put it on my story, but I can show you. It's like there's the the little whistle, the doop doop.
Oh yes.
Doop, doop.
That's-
There's like a part in the episode. I was watching it because I was rewatching all of Naruto. I just decided from the first part to Naruto Shippuden, I'm gonna sit down and watch all 600 episodes. So I just over a few months, I just watched them, and I got to
Okay,
that
a few
episode.
months. I was like,
dude,
I was like,
nigga.
whoa. I was like,
I took breaks. Come on, it gets boring at certain parts.
still, the fact that it took a few months. Like,
Yeah, it took a while. But there's a part where like they're going on a mission and it's like nighttime, and there's like this, I guess it's like an owl or some shit. It's supposed to be like an owl sound in the show, and I heard it, and it was like doop 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 doop. I was like, So I just took my phone, recorded it, brought it in, and then I just added drums and then produced on top of it. But the foundation was that sample.
that's what. So, like, that's just like some next level sample digging. Like I would have never assumed any of that. I would have been like, oh yeah, so like what like YouTube channel did you go find your music samples from? It's like actually I went to LA, found this guy in Venice, bought his mixtape, and then I watched 600 episodes of Naruto. Like
I like the spontaneous aspect of sampling, of like not looking for it, but it coming to you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, I can sample this. And you just sample it.
and then it's just well, I mean, it's a lot more natural that way too, right? Because
Yeah.
it's like you're not forcing it. You're not forcing yourself to find something. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, I could do something with this.
Yeah.
Like natural ideas.
I like that. It's there's more enthusiasm behind it.
It's a simple one. It's your use of French in this project. There was a lot of French, a lot of just random French.
That's something that happens in the study series. If you listen to one, there's French throughout too. It's just like just adding stuff,
just
keeping
adding emotion.
It adds a certain cohesiveness to it.
Is there a reason why? I mean, obviously you're French, but like, is there like a reason why you like the language and the sound of it?
If you dig with everything that's not English in it, it adds to the meaning of the project.
All right.
But just to be a bitch, I'm not going to explain it because that would ruin the fun.
Nice. Okay. Well, I mean, this week, shorter, but I was going to say, like, did you find yourself doing anything specifically for this project? We kind of talked about it already, but like your workflow in general, like, did you find it changing throughout you working on these 5 tracks? Like, did you feel yourself growing at all through the project?
I'm not happy about how, I'm not too, I wouldn't say unhappy, but the only thing that changed is like the space between when every track was originally conceived. And that, like, track 1 is it 4?
Yeah.
Track 1 is from 2020, I think August. Track 2 is from like 2019 when I put Study Series 1 out. Track 3 is from 2018. Track 4 is from, it's like one of the more recent ones. Track 4, 5, 6 are like the most recent ones. Like I made those like, I think in the 2 months that I was before the project came out. So I don't like I don't even understand how I go into. I can't answer that question because I don't even understand. Like I don't consciously choose how I'm gonna work. It just happens.
Well, I guess more or less, like, did you feel yourself like it's kind of like, did you feel yourself becoming a better producer throughout the process of working on it? Because it sounds like you became a better producer. Like it sounds like you grew into a lot of like, just like
I like that I do like 360 no scopes sometimes throughout the thing. Like I found that I can technically musically flex, like do cool things, and I'm like, yeah, like there's like that's like my whole thing about this whole project is those little moments of like, it'll be the simplest thing, like 2 kicks, like at the end of a versio, there's like, I call them A-B sides because there's like the A side is like the sample, the dun, 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 and then the second part is like when there's a synth, and then there's like black tar all around me, and then you know, after the second hook, when that beginning sample starts again,
yeah,
you know, when it starts again and there's 2 kicks that come in,
yeah,
those 2 kicks, fire. Like I think to me that's the little, those are the little things though. They're like little, what I found that I've gotten better at, to answer your question, is that there's like little details that, like, to someone who really wants to like go into the details, like to me it's like, what I like about music is there's little things in the music where I'm like, this is tight. Like, and it's there's a lot of times where I won't like the song, but the reason why I listen to it is because as much as I don't like the first minute, on the second minute, there's like these 4 chords that come in that are amazing.
Yeah, there's just something there. Yeah.
That's why I listen to the whole song,
Yeah.
even though I don't like that first part. It's like a lot of that is it's like that a lot for me with jazz. It's like jazz, like, because it goes around so much, it wanders so much that, like, sometimes I may not like the first phrase, but then when they go to like the B side, it's like, holy shit, they're starting to wild out.
Yeah,
so it's worth it.
You got something to look forward to, or something to come up at. Yeah.
So I think that's my favorite part in music, is like those little parts. So I think seeing that I've gotten better at like being able to do those little things has like upped the enthusiasm. Like the little hat, the hat on Duke, like the tss, 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 like at the end when I'm doing the hook the second time, like just that little hat is like, to me, that's mind blowing how much it adds to the song as just a little 808 hat. That's not really doing much. It's not trying too hard.
But it fills up.
But it's like a little...
It fills up the feeling that you need. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like the pockets. What else?
So you did grow up then as a producer on this project. You did like
I'm too in it to realize, you know.
you did like you were always like, I mean, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way.
No, no,
Like, did you become a better producer through this? Because
No,
you were
of course.
like you were always a good producer, and you were like always you're always a great artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're a great artist, but producing is always like it's like a little bit of a different world than being an artist, right?
Yeah.
Anyone could play an instrument, but producing a track that sounds good is like it's a
Well-
weird, difficult thing to do.
Producing is what I did first.
Yeah, so-
Lyrics is like my least favorite part in making music. Producing I could do all day. It's just when it comes to lyrics, that's usually when I start procrastinating, which is why like I've had like the first 3 tracks, I've had them laying around. The two, Vivos, track 2, 3, 4, I had laying around for a very long. Track 2 and 3, I had laying around for a very long time because I just had to write more. I was like, I don't feel like writing more.
You just weren't in a spot where you're like,
Yeah.
I don't. But that's a good thing though sometimes, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I'm not in a place right now to write on this.
It's not even I'm not in a place. It's just I'm lazy. It's just like it's just.
So I just don't want to do
It's
it.
just because I'm less good at it because I didn't start out writing. So the skill gap the skill gap basically pisses me off. The fact that like it doesn't come naturally to me yet to write. It doesn't consciously come naturally to me. There's some songs where it just flows out.
Interesting. Because I was like, your lyricism flow is like you don't really have to think about it when you're listening to it. It just works. Like sometimes when I'm listening to, I don't want to say rappers because I can't really. I don't know. Do I classify you as a rapper? Like, are you?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Whatever you want.
Like you're just a person, all right? Just a person that puts in person that puts vocals on
Actually,
heartbeats.
No, I don't want to be called a rapper.
I don't even know, right? But it's like I just completely forgot my question. But oh well.
What do we call her? Yeah, no music. It's usually lyrics last, and I procrastinate on it a lot. Unless there's some times where it's like I know exactly what I'm gonna do. Like there's a lot of songs where I write them for like 5, 10, 20 minutes and they're perfectly. A lot of Yin was that, like shit being written in like 20 minutes and it sounding exactly what I was feeling, perfectly, like flow, everything was perfect. But
when you write, do you put the projects on and listen to them while you write, or do you separate those two and kind of like go write separately away from the music?
Depends. Sometimes I loop it, sometimes silence is enough. Because I feel like sometimes looping, like you get left behind by the beat when you're trying to find the word. So if you pause it, I can play the song in my head and like, you know what I'm saying?
My favorite part about this whole interview is finding out that you don't have a process. You just do everything. That's like your process is just doing. Like that's your process, which is wild and insane.
Just a little slut. That's it. I just let everything out. 45 minutes exactly.
Yo, if it went to 46, I would have lost my shit, dude. That number.
46? Is it still following you?
Dude, like